Alright, so depending on how today goes, we might have a new front bumper on this bad boy. Something a little stronger and a hell of a lot heavier. So, taking this thing off after watching videos and checking out everything, it's pretty simple. Come underneath at the passenger side, and you will notice two bolts right here. And they connect to your vacuum canister. So remove those bolts so that the vacuum canister kind of just floats around in there. And then after that, you can do two things. And for me, I'm going to do the second option. First one is to take this bolt out and that bolt out, the star bolts, and that'll take off just the bumper and leave the brackets. But since our aftermarket bumper has brackets on it, we are going to take these three bolts out, which are regular bolts, and the bracket and the bolt, the bumper will come off together, and you don't have to fuck around with weird star things. So you got one bracket here, and the exact same thing on the other side. So that's 6 bolts, plus the 2 for the canister, the 1 or 2, and then the bumper should come right off. If you have fog lights, you have to disconnect them with the wiring and everything, so you don't rip them out when you pull the bumper off. So, let's see if these things come loose. Okay. You will get 3 bolts like this on the left side, and the same thing on the right side. And after that, you should notice that your bumper sits a little different. So if I just give her a nice little yanker, danker-do, that's a very good bumper. Yeah, such a good bumper is .R approved. So, now you can see what I was talking about the vacuum canister, how it bolts to the bottom of whatever the fuck, so you'll have to do something about that, you know what I'm saying? The screws are held in place with these little metal retainer clips, so if one of your bolts just seems to spin, this might be your issue. It'll come out of there and into there, so just one of them do there, ticky hickeys. Yeah. So now you can see, the inside just a little better, and you'll notice the way that the trim flows down and underneath the body and all that good stuff, all those other little brackets and crap. So yeah, old bumper removed. Okay, the power steering steering box is loosened up now. Those are all 16mm bolts. I soaked them in PB at the very beginning and let them sit while I was taking the other bolts off, and they came out relatively easily, you know, after using a breaker bar. I didn't pull them all the way out, but they are definitely all loose. Now, the next part for my bumper, because of the way that mine was designed, it has a flat piece that goes this way, and it also has a curve that wraps under the bottom and bolts to something in the back for extra support. And because of the way that it's designed, this whole bracket has to move because the bumper will be going through that. So it's not just a simple 1 or 2 bolt thing. It's really annoying because you have one bolt here that's also attached to this, and then if you go up here, there's 2 bolts here, and then there's one way up there. Come on, there you go. That one is very hard to get to, and I've heard other people just using sawzalls and chopping up this bracket, which might be a little easier in the long run, you know? Just zip a little line right about here, maybe. And the bottom one would have to come out too, so this holds up your horn, so it's mildly important. Not super important, but I'd like to keep as much of it as possible. There isn't a hole cut out in the bumper for that, so if I really wanted to, I could drill a hole or something. Same on the other side. I also got to figure out what to do about this vacuum canister since it's floating around now. But same deal on this side. And this bolt's even more fun to get to because someone spliced in this turn signal, previous owner, and it's right there. Yeah. I ain't gonna get to that if I tried. Well, there's my solution to that problem. Sawzall. I measured the how thick the bumper was. The bumper's only about around a 1/4 inch thick, and I ended up cutting off about a 1/2 inch. So I should probably have Good enough clearance that that'll fit in there just fine. So all I got to do now is remove 2 bolts, maybe 3, because I don't know if I can get this bolt out around that. But besides that, now the bumper should fit in there, and I don't have to remove this whole bracket. So now things are still kind of structurally sound. Yay for stock stuff! And after a little bit of finessing, that's the final job right there. So, plenty of clearance for that bumper to slide in. And we can trim it up a little bit if we need to. And now there's nothing on the bottom, so that edge will be nice and smooth. Very nice. Now to do the same thing on the other side. There's the crap that came off. There we are. Side 2 is complete. Okay. Alright. I figured I'd show you guys the hardware. The hardware already comes pre-installed, like on the bumper when it ships. So you have a bunch of these, which are the same thing. Just a bolt, 2 washers, a lot like a crush washer, and then a nut on the other side. And you got, I think, 8 of those. They're all the same size, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. Then you got 2 nuts with crush washers and 1 washer. They go to these nut plates, and these are the other brackets. These both will sit on the front of the bumper, and then these will go inside the frame so that you don't have to worry about getting a wrench in there when you're bolting it up from the bottom. And if you're curious, that's the whole setup right here. So we got the 3 bolt pattern here that holds the original bumper on, and over here, steering box bolts. On the other side, I'm not sure how it's going to work exactly, because we have these 2 bolts here, or 3 bolts, I'm sorry, and I don't know what's going to go in those. And then that's the bottom one right there. That's why we had to grind that off, because of this lip right here. It's got to go in smooth. But that's what we're looking at right now. So let's see if all this crap fits up right. Okay, so more modifying. This very lower part of the splash shield or whatever has to be cut out a little bit for the brackets, because they just go down a little lower than they need to. Also, if you notice in there, that's where those nut certs go, the nut strips, I'm sorry. And if you look underneath, we got ourselves a bolt. So make sure to thread that beforehand, because this bracket, I'm pretty sure they only fit on one side, but it covers that whole hole up. So make sure it's sitting in there right the first time. Otherwise things could get interesting. But the next part is for this bracket. So you got 2 holes here and 2 holes back there. On this side it's easy to get to, because you can just come through this little hole. And you can see it right over there. So that's easy. On that side, there's the steering box in the way. Hooray! Good luck, motherfucker. Brackets lined up. And then it's just time to put the bumper. So, just gotta tighten it up. But that's what the fitment looks like so far. For the most part, it kind of holds itself in place, which is cool. I'm not sure how, but it does. So, time to tighten it up. Alright, here comes the fun part. Right here, we got the steering box. This guy right here, this is on the driver's side. The fun part is trying to line up the bolts that go through the bumper into the steering bracket, which is like a triangle looking thing right here, and then into the pump itself. That is a pain in the ass. We had to end up moving the bracket out to get the bolts behind it, because that one right there, and there's one lower, we had to move the box out of the way. But to get it back in and help line it up, I'm taking this guy right here and sticking it all the way through, and seeing first that it goes through, and then wiggle the box just right until it's like it's really in there. Take that out, and while not letting go of the pump, put the bolt in and try and start it. And I've gotten 2 of the 3 bolts so far. I just got to line up the one on the top, and then I should be good. After that, we can tighten everything down. Alright, here we are, final product. So, my phone died last night, so I couldn't show you the final steps, but it wasn't much. For the steering box, there's a, some kind of wedge, if you want to call it that I had to drill out a little. This wedge right here, it was hitting the bolt to the left, so I had to, I painted it real fast and then hammered it against the bolt to see where it hit and then grinded it. So now that's in there. And the vacuum canister, I had to zip tie. So I just zip tied it to the existing frame rails that are still mostly in one piece. So there we are. Finished bumper. I think it looks pretty good. And for now, I just got the license plate zip tied to the winch hole. And if you're smart, then you would notice that the next plausible thing is going to be a winch. So, there you go. Thanks, AJ's Off-Road Armor, for the SlikRok. It's a slight use update. The D-rings I got from Smitty Belt are supposedly 3/4 inch, but they don't quite fit in there. They're fucking big as hell, so I'll have to work on that to get them to fit. As for a use update, I got stuck in some pretty hardcore shit, and without D-rings, it was a little difficult to do a recovery, so I put a little unneeded abuse into this bumper and just wrapped the cable around the front bar right here. And I tell you what, this motherfucker is quite strong. My paint job doesn't say much about that because there's little nicks and scratches that I'll have to clean up real quick, but I mean, for the pinch that I was in, I am extremely impressed. This bumper holds up like nobody's fucking business. I was yanking one of my buddies out from the front and this thing was getting dragged around all over the place, but it stayed on there. So, props to the bumper. Lots of them.